episode of Relearning Work, where we dive into the future of learning and work. In each episode, we bring you conversations with leaders from industry and education to challenge assumptions, propose ideas, and share learnings as we all navigate this world that is being reshaped by Agentic AI. Whether you're an educator, a student, or a business executive looking to stay ahead in this rapidly changing landscape, there's something in it here for you as well. I'm your host, David Yip, and today I'm joined by Joel Trapani. He is the co-founder and CEO of Vygo. Vygo is a support ecosystem platform that helps educators connect their students to their support ecosystems, be that mentors, advisors, tutors, counsellors. Joel has scaled Vygo through Australia and into the UK and helps students in over 100 countries around the world. So let's jump into it. Welcome, Joel. How are you today?
Mate, very excited to be here. It's episode 1, I think. So at least it's the first few. So, mate, I'm excited. I love this space. I love the world of AI. I love just how much it can impact education. I love the world of education so much, and I love all the conversations we've had about this, in our own time. So it's exciting to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Really, really great to have you, especially as episode 1, our first guest. And your background as a edtech entrepreneur, your experience, not just in Australia, but globally, really would love to hear what your thoughts about these topics. So let's jump straight into it. Okay, so I'd like to just start with the question as assumptions. We all make them. Sometimes we make them and we may not be aware of them even. But in the future world of learning and work, what is an assumption that we all make? We may not be aware of them yet, but that might be impacting how we adapt to this AI economy.
What assumptions am I making? It's good. I guess I'm probably just making 1,000 assumptions a day I'm not even aware of, but particularly about the future of work. I think the future of work is going to be so influenced by AI, and maybe that in itself is a huge assumption, right? But I feel like it's a pretty firm assumption that I'm happy to kind of bet on. But what assumptions am I thinking about for the future of work? I'd say
when you're solving a problem, or when you're coming up with a solution, or even when you're looking for potential clients or universities.
Yeah, I guess one part for me is the way I think about the future of my company and the way we operate, and the way I would help any graduate to come into my company or into any job. And what I'd recommend is you need to be very fluent or very open to working with AI. It should, I don't think for a while anyway, AI is just going to straight out replace a lot of jobs, at least a lot of jobs that I see. I think that there is going to be a large section of jobs that I just don't understand how it's going to be impacted by it. But in my own job and a lot of people I work with, AI is such an amplifier for me. So I just see so many people, if they have that in their tool belt, at least for a couple of years, it's going to really elevate you. So the future of work needs to be so sharply defined by your openness to the technology. The genie's out of the bottle. We can't go backwards from this. And so if you're going into the workforce, you need to be very confident and comfortable in that space. And that doesn't mean you need to be an expert at the technology behind it, but the application of it, right? So whether it's, things like image generation, are you in a creative field where this can help, or if it's just, a chatbot to help you, like a ChatGPT, right? Where it's great for creativity, or it's great for, as a thought partner, or coming up with the rough versions of entire documents, or it's more like enterprise tools in your organization that you end up working for, which automate a bunch of the business processes, that you should be aware of what it can do and where it's going. And I think, staying up to date would make a big change. I don't know if that's where you're hoping to go, but I guess on an individual basis, that's where I think about the future of work. And then I think about, for organizations, where's the future going? It's just that SaaS ate the world. AI is now going to go through that same phase of eating the world. And if you're not thinking about it and you're just kind of brushing on the rug, you're going to get fucked at some point. There's just no way around it. It's coming. and it can add so much value to your organization. I'm not scared of AI in any way. I just think people should embrace it. It can do so much, and yeah, it should just be. I hate the idea, right, of using AI for something, right? We have to do AI in our business. Like I hate that, but more think about like it's a tool that you can use to amplify, and the way you think about product or offerings or services is that how can you use it to amplify everything you're trying to do.
But isn't there, I guess, an assumption that people would embrace it and they would, I guess, be curious about it, and curious enough to do something about it and not shy away from it. I guess one of the things, as entrepreneurs, I guess, we are naturally curious and trying new things, maybe risk takers. But I think a lot of people are probably quite the opposite. And so one of the assumptions there is that we all have similar mindsets and we would actually gravitate to nice shiny new things. But how do you actually help people who don't have that kind of mindset or that kind of natural tendency?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that I think about a little bit, right? That there's kind of like two approaches or two ways to deal with it. The one I think about is maybe a little more like fatalistic, but there's this expression that I love, which is, how do they teach everyone in the world that the world wasn't flat and it was round? And, well, they didn't. They just taught enough of the young progressive minds and they let everyone else eventually just die. And so the old way of thinking became antiquated and it just died out with those people. And an element of that is true with AI, right? We're not going to get everyone. Except, someone who's finishing their career next year, how much do they need to embrace AI? It's like, probably not that much. So then you look at the other end of the spectrum, like someone just starting out their career next year, like how much do they have to embrace AI? It's like, well, a lot, right? Because it will change the way they work. And we do have to teach people to be curious. And the pace of change in AI is so crazy that we can't just teach them like, this is what it is. But it's more about, theoretically of like, I guess like, what is it and what can it be and where is it going, and more aware of how it currently fits and how it's changed and how it's going to continue to change. Is we need to teach people to be curious in that. And I think that happens a lot at universities. I think about universities a lot, and the way we don't do it is that we don't tell students that ChatGPT is banned, because one is that that's going to make them use it more. But second is that we should be thinking about assessment and teaching and building it in as a tool, not just the AI tools that universities can and should and are using, but the other tools that they're not, and teaching students to be curious about that. It should be the responsibility of every teacher and every piece of assessment to be conscious of it. But I also hate things where like the responsibility is everyone's responsibility, because it ends up meaning it's no one's. But there should be people in the university who are specifically responsible and have the authority to make change in this space. So whether it's the head of a school or it's a DVC or it's just one person at the university, maybe it's the CIO, or it's like a new role, which is head of AI for students, right? They should come in there. They should have the responsibility and a set of key metrics that help them like create new curriculum around AI and new assessment around AI and build that in. They should be on the bleeding edge of what this should look like. So, I do think it needs to be brought into the way students are taught, for sure. And we shouldn't be shying away from it.
Actually, just on that one that you mentioned, the leaders in the university and essentially the administrative staff, right? The workforce. But then there's a assumption there that the workforce will embrace it, or even before that, maybe the workforce already understand it, and the lecturers and the CIO already know what to do with it, right? But often they don't, and they are just as, in the same stage of learning it as the students are, and exploring it and trying to find things out and trying to teach at the same time.
Yeah, and that's why I think like you can't at the end of the day just make it just everyone's responsibility, because then it makes no one's responsibility. Like there needs to be someone in the institution that is responsible for this, and they should be responsible to define what this means for us and what this means right now, and what it will mean next year, and what it's going to continue to mean, and how it needs to be thought about meaningfully in assessment and teaching and staff and student experience. But there's an assumption there, but it's also a pretty fair assumption, right? Like when you work at a company or a university, you're making a trade. I will take money and I will do what you say. And if the university says, or the company says, we use AI now, and here's the tools and the space and the freedom to learn it, then you should have to do that. That's a totally fair trade that they're making. It should be an expectation of the role. And it's just like universities never used to have an LMS, and now everyone uses an LMS. And that was a big scary thing at the time. And then, cloud-based became a big scary change as well. And there was always going to be technological change in every industry. And people just generally need to be open to it. But when you're in a professional space where the change is happening so quickly, the university does have a responsibility to educate and to change and to provide. But, it doesn't matter where you work. This is going to happen. So you're making that trade.
How do you bring people along though? Because there's the thing with this particular technology, it's just so pervasive and it's happened so quickly and it's everywhere, right? And a lot of staff even, they need to be trained, they need to be taught what this means and be comfortable with it themselves. How do you bring them along so they want to do it?
Yeah. I've never had to do large scale change management. So I don't have potentially, I'm sure there's a bunch of theory out there about how to do large scale change management. But in my organization, and it's a startup, so we're still learning it, and we have a team that's like much more, I guess, has a high propensity to engage in this kind of technology because of the kind of people we hire. It's probably a lot easier for us, but we just make it available and then we talk about it, right? We have the conversations. It's regularly going on, and different people in our company are super interested or lead on, like, hey, here's some new tools that we have. We constantly share it with each other. It becomes a point of conversation for us. But we have a company full of early adopters. And so your early adopters in institutions will do that anyway. And then you need to provide it more readily available for, the early majority. But then when you're talking about the late majority and the stragglers, like, you're going to have to force it. You also probably have to be aware that you're probably only going to get like a maximum of maybe 80% saturation. Will everyone use it? No. But you need the vast majority. And I guess like the leaders of a university need to think about it like this, right? AI is a massive amplifier. So it's not a waste of money and it's not a waste of time to invest in understanding how it's going to be used at your organization. Because when you do it and you get it right, you dramatically change the output of your organization or the amount of headcount that you need. So it's a huge cost saver when it's done well. Now, that being said, it's still early days, right? There's so much change to happen, and you don't need to adopt everything at once. Adopt what works for you. But there should be I would just put KPIs on everyone, right? Like, were you playing with AI this week? And how many times did you open ChatGPT at a bare minimum? Like, set the bar low and get people comfortable with it and just seeing the power of it.
Yeah. Actually, no, that I like that. Maybe not to that degree with all KPIs and measuring it to that degree, but definitely we have to measure it, and there has to be. You can't manage what you can't measure. But yeah. I guess going back to the assumptions piece. So once we have, I guess we understand, what we're doing and some of the underlying assumptions that's really driving us to do certain things. The next thing really is to also look at what is the role of AI and how it's actually changing the way we do things, particularly around this whole agentic AI. So we all have heard about future of work is going to change, but specifically, can you see in how you're building out Vygo and dealing with both the workforce and the university, what happens at that interplay between work and learn?
Yeah, I think, like, AI is a crazy producer. Like, at least like generative AI, right? Like, it can create any image you can imagine. It can create, like, I think about university and I think about the reports I wrote, and I wasn't a great student. I had a lot of my own struggles, but like, I could give AI my assignment and it would just write a better assignment than I ever wrote. And so I could have had it done in 10 seconds, where it used to take me hours and hours to slave. So we just need to be aware that, like, content production is so cheap now. It's so much cheaper than it's ever been in the past. So we shouldn't be focusing on that. We need to get really, really clear and show that, like, the value that humans can provide to this is critical. It's criticality, right? Critical thinking, critical analysis, critical review. And so we should be teaching students that in their degree. And like same in my team, right? Like I've had people send me these huge emails, like so long with so much content, and I'm like, I know you wrote this. I know you had ChatGPT write this for me, and it's just fucking massive, and it's a waste of my time to read this now. Never send this to me again. Like, cut this shit out and tell me what the real opinion is here. Use it to get your opinion out, right? Use it to get better language if you need it. But you need to be boiling down to like what the key ideas are here. And that's where I think learning needs to go and work needs to go, is that it's easier than ever to produce code, to produce products, to produce services. It's easier than ever to produce content. So when that shit's not valuable anymore, like it's understanding like we need to be much more careful about creating the right code and the right products and the right content and the right services. And that comes from critical thinking, and so we have to be careful of that internally, that we build the right stuff, we serve the right people, we give the right value at the end of it, and we need to be, I guess, review heavily on what we put out, and that's what we should be teaching students to analyze and understand. It's not just about output anymore. It's about, I guess it's more about quality than it's ever been.
Yeah. So, yeah, I love how you're sort of seeing how your work is actually changing. The value of what you're doing is changing, and the associated skills that you're learning while doing. And you mentioned critical thinking. What other ones?
I guess you hear it a lot, but like creativity. Like ChatGPT can come up with 1,000 ideas, which is great, but like we do bring an element of chaos and emotion that I don't think AI can understand yet, and or can't replicate yet. And so creativity and true art and beauty, like that I think that still has a human, I guess, like experience that's required for it. So definitely that. And then I guess collaboration, bringing people together is another huge skill. Stakeholder management is another huge skill that's super important. Yeah, probably dealing with people is a big one now I think about it. Like that's, the whole premise of my platform is that we bring people together, and we're investing heavily in AI, but it's never to replace the person. It's to amplify the connection and make it a whole lot easier to find the right person when you need them. And so, yeah, that human component is key.
And I guess, you're right. It's not there to replace the person, but that person also needs to be able to sort of rethink what they do and what's valuable and what can be done by AI, and then shift to the high value activities, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I hate writing reports, and it's great because I don't need to worry about that shit anymore. And so I get to spend more time in what I like doing and what I'm good at.
And I've used ChatGPT to write articles and blogs, and what I find that is really, really good at is overcoming this sort of blank page, the writer's block. But once it actually generates something for you, and I just forever tinker with it and rewrite sections of it, and gives you an idea to go and elaborate on certain things, I find the finished product is completely different to the original generated version anyway. But the process to get to the finished product is a lot faster.
Yeah, and arguably you have a much better end product because you got to spend more of your time really finessing an idea, opposed to just being like, how do I start here? And just, it takes, I guess that creative exhaustion is a whole lot less.
Yeah. So I want to just drill into one of the other ideas I want to explore around earning and learning. So you mentioned you hire a lot of people in the innovation space, you're investing heavily into AI. How do you think about earning and learning? Both, I don't know, in the traditional way, you study and then you go into work, or this evolving model where you sort of do both at the same time?
I mean, when I studied civil engineering, and then I got to do like paid work experience, and it was amazing, right? Like it was probably like one of the best experiences of my entire degree, and it's because I got to see like, oh, that's what a civil engineer does, right? Like that's what the reports look like, or that's what being on site feels like. So I was fortunate, but like most degrees didn't have any anything like that in them, right? There was no component of that. Like there's some definitely. There's other ones where it's like you have to work full time for 3 months and you don't get paid, and that's like crazy when you're at university because you already have no money. So I think like as a student, I know like just how beneficial that moment was for me and how valuable those experiences were for me. From a hiring perspective, like I struggle with the idea, to be perfectly honest. Like I get offers quite a bit for students to come and work for me, and I say no because like I don't think we have the capacity to teach students. Now that's not saying I don't think it's valuable, but like I think you need to look at the scale of organizations. Okay, like we're a startup. We're finding our way. We're working double the amount of hours in the day to try and create something that didn't exist before. So we don't and we've got experts so focused on something. Whereas when you look at maybe somewhere like a Telstra, right, like this big organization, their capability to teach, like they have great learning departments, they have great like a spread of different skills. They have different opportunities within that organization, and they have probably like a higher margin to spend the time teaching, because teaching is expensive, right? Like when you're teaching someone, if they come in like the first 6 months, you got to pay someone and they don't know how to do anything. It's all cost. So for me, I don't know where the fit is. Like I know from a student's perspective, we need way more value. Like we need way more of that experience to truly teach someone. Because when I graduated, I knew nothing. Like even though I'd done that 3 months of work experience, when I started my actual job, they were just like, they told me, you're not going to know anything and you're not going to add any value to us for at least 6 months. And they were right. I worked my ass off to get to zero. Like I was a cost for a long time. So I just think that the system is broken, but I don't really know how to fix it. Because like I know startups can't really afford it. I know big organizations are already struggling, saying that the students don't have the right skills coming out. So I know there needs to be a better mix there, and I can't see where the mix is though, personally.
But isn't that and I hear that a lot as well, and I've been thinking about that kind of that challenge, that problem about students coming in. What do you actually do? I mean, employees at the end of the day are not educators, right? Employees are there to run their business and to earn value for their shareholders. Educators need to educate, but often the lines are blurred, I guess. But students these days, I'm continuously surprised by how talented and a lot of and the skills that they have. They do have, and unfortunately, a lot of them actually don't realize that they have a lot of these skills that are actually quite valuable. So is there an assumption there when a student comes through the door that perhaps they need to learn and they don't have some inherent skills that they can bring on day one?
I think it's an assumption that's both like fundamental or objectively true, and I guess in some elements objectively false, which is probably a shitty answer for you. But like I guess we do have one student who works for us, and he works in marketing, and he's phenomenal, right? Like he's in a big way like changed our marketing team. And he came in and he gave us a skill set we didn't have, which was podcast production. And so now like this podcasting arm or branding part of our arm fully goes to him, and it took no teaching. And that's perfect, right? Because we were able to see this overlap. But generally, okay, if I was thinking about someone who wants to get into customer success, we have a very specific way of doing customer success. It needs to be done by exact standards in what we do. And we need a level of, like professionalism, like a deep level of knowledge on our product, a deep level of understanding of like the psychology of this, it's technical to some extent, right? We need to teach them that. Like there's probably skills that they have that could change the way we do things, but the 80% there, we just need to know it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Look, absolutely. I mean, these, after all, they are starting out, building their careers, starting to learn skills, not just technical skills, but a lot of soft skills as well. So you mentioned, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration. That's a hard one, especially the COVID generation. But there's also a lot of new things that they can teach us as well. I look at my son, and he collaborates and plays computer games with people around the world, and just switching and communicating and collaborating on a mission, a game mission, albeit, but these are complex missions, and it's collaborating with a lot of people. Those are transferable skills, and people, they don't probably even recognize that that's valuable, and they can teach us a thing or two, in global collaboration.
Definitely. Yeah, and that we definitely need to be more open to that as well. I guess it really depends on, like, for me personally, it feels like the pressure of an organization when, like, you're running things to the wire, the margin's not there, the capacity's not there. I'm like we just need to survive, or we just need to, like, get through this thing or achieve this certain goal or double in revenue. Like, when the pressure's, like, insanely high, I feel personally much less, like, open to being like, come on in, we'll teach you, but you teach me. Whereas when I was working in an organization where I was a civil engineer and we had thousands of people, I was like, let's get the students in for sure. I'd love to, like, give them all of my time and help them learn while they're studying and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, but the pressure was less then. So I don't, again, it's probably, these aren't the altruistic answers. I guess these are more how I feel about the realities of building a startup.
Yeah, but I guess one takeaway that I can take from this thing is that, there are a lot of changes happening. There's a lot of investment happening. AI is throwing, I guess, a spanner in the works into what we do day in, day out, causing us to sort of think about what we do deeply. What is valuable today will be valuable tomorrow, because some of these activities that we do might be automated. And if it's automated away, then what else do we do? I also heard from you that at the end of the day, humans are valuable in organizations. So there may be a lot of work that can be automated away, but ultimately, humans are there to serve other humans, and there's a lot of new value that we can create.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think about that a lot, right? So the goal is to never cut out humans completely, but it is to scale humans. So if a human is spending every day, like, matching names in a spreadsheet, like, what a waste of money that is.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we could
a waste of human spirit
time
as well. I mean,
exactly.
that's not a fun job to do.
No.
Yeah.
And so, like, let's just cut that out. Like, technology can do that, AI can do that, even just basic algorithms can do that. And let's get that person helping the students, right? Like, spending the time face to face. Let's get that triage bullshit gone, and let's get the real value added where it can and should be added.
And one final question before we start to wrap up. What's a real life example that you've either experienced yourself in your own company or with other organizations of really looking at working and learning differently, whether it's taking people on the journey or it's introducing new skills or helping people identify new value? What have you actually seen or experienced yourself in this area?
It's interesting you ask that. Like, it makes me think about it a little bit differently, right? To everything I've just said. But we've thought a lot about professional development at work, because we always want to be pushing out people to become the best possible versions of themselves. And I want everyone to look back and be like, geez, the work I did there was some of the best work I've ever done. And it was hard, but geez, it was good. And we've spent so much time and resource, like, trying to do, like, professional development for people, where we like run a course for them or send them to a conference or all that kind of stuff. But we just learned that the only way people truly learn something is when you just give them the project. So it's like, hey, you've never been a product lead before? Here you go. Like, have a crack. We have these resources here that will be timely for you when you need them, but, like, go nuts. And, like, just the development people is crazy when you just throw them in the deep end, right? Which, like, again, it's anti to everything I just said. We need to teach people, and, like, to an extent, we still need to hold these people's hands as they do that. But we see the pace of learning speed up dramatically, and the leaps that someone can take dramatically when there are real life outcomes on the line. And so, like, I guess the way we think about earning and learning is, like, when you want to learn, just do the job. Like, take that role on whenever we can give it to them. And if we were to hire a student, that's the way we would do it. And we've had this woman working for us for 4 years or 5 years, and she started out with a graduate for us, and she's I've had so much joy working with her, seeing how much she was able to grow, because we continue to throw her in the deep end. And I do love doing that, right? Like that is, I do think that that's the best way to learn.
Yeah. So earning and learning, there's increasingly not a boundary between the two. You're doing both at the same time.
I guess, yeah. I guess when I think of earning and learning, I think about someone's an undergraduate. They're going to come and work for me like a couple hours a week, and I'm just like, I can't see myself getting value out of that. But then when you flip the question on me a little bit, and I'm thinking about where I've actually seen it is the people we have, whether they're graduates or they've been working for 10, 20 years, they can learn a lot on the job still when you give them the responsibility and the support, right? You want to have your hand on your shoulder saying it's going to be all right, but they need the trust and the space to succeed and to fuck it up.
Yeah, cool. And on that note, one final question, and the one I used to wrap up all the podcasts is, can you give me the name of a teacher? Now, it could be a mentor or a coach or a manager that's really made the most impact in your life, and why?
I love all my mentors. There's so many mentors. Probably Matt Mashari. Yeah, probably like the one that jumps out to me. I've had so many beautiful and amazing people in my life, but more recently I had this mentor, this coach called Matt Mashari. And he's arguably the greatest CEO coach in the whole world. And he coaches the founders of Reddit and Coinbase and OpenAI and all these giant companies. And he agreed to coach us, which was like this really lucky moment. But he took the time to not just think about what work troubles I was going through, but like what was happening in my personal life and who I was and what I cared about. And after having him as a coach for a few months, like my life forever changed, and I got to become so much more of the person I wanted to be because he gave me that opportunity to see me and to help me understand what I should be working on, what I shouldn't be working on, where my strengths were, where my weaknesses were, and someone just spending the time and telling you it's going to be okay, and being there for you, like it can change everything for you, right? Like that one person can change your life. And I've been fortunate. I had that at university. I was going to drop out, and I had an amazing person that did that. I had another person that helped me step out of the 9-to-5 job I had and go into startups. And like every major moment in my life has been influenced by like a special moment like that. So I'm so grateful for those people. But Matt, yeah, I'll forever be in Matt's debt for what he's been able to do.
Awesome. Love those kind of stories, especially with the education world and people who leave a lasting impact and change lives. So we have time for just one last segment, and that's plugs. So tell me, Joel, what or who do you want to plug this month?
Yeah, mate. Love the opportunity to plug every chance I get. Check out Vygo. If you're running a university, we want to help you. We want to help your students. So it's effectively, we just bring every support service you run in all together. So we're like that one front door. So no matter what person a student needs to connect with, a mentor, tutor, counselor, advisor, we help them connect with them. They're only ever one click away. And what that does is it helps students get all that social and academic engagement they need. It massively increases retention. And on the back end, we should significantly reduce administrative costs to run all these support services too. Outside of that, I've got a podcast too called Broken Education, where I speak to insanely smart people all around the world just about where the real challenges are in education. And so check that out, and let's connect on LinkedIn if any of this is interesting. I love having these conversations, and I'm more than happy to connect and support however I can.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joel. And from my end, I want to plug a volunteer organization. It's called the Raise Foundation. And if you haven't checked them out, raisefoundation.org. They are an organization to help young people, and you get to volunteer at your local high school. And there's many high schools with the Raise Foundation program in place, and you provide advice and guidance, not just on a one-off, but actually over a period of time. And you really start to see and build a relationship with these young people over a school term, a school year, in fact, and you get to see your impact. And it's both highly valuable for the young person, but also I've done it for a couple of years as well now myself, for me too. And you find out more about yourself, and help yourself as much as you're helping the young person as well. So that's my plug for this episode of the Raise Foundation. So check them out. Yeah, and lastly, as always, we shamelessly plug this show as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to your favorite podcast and give us 5 stars or whatever the good thing is. And reach out to us if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer. Send them through to david.yip@alumly.co. That's ALUMLY.co. We'd love to hear from you. And so that's another episode of Relearning Work. We'll see you next time.